Alex Eala thought it was just another ordinary moment with fans, until everything suddenly changed. What happened next was caught by cameras and quickly became one of the most talked about moments of the day. At first, almost nobody noticed it. But once the footage started circulating, fans replayed it again and again. The internet immediately split into two completely different opinions. So what exactly did the cameras capture? The Birmingham Open had been buzzing with excitement throughout the week. Alex Eala, the young Filipino tennis sensation, had captured the hearts of fans worldwide with her powerful forehand and even more powerful presence. Her matches drew record crowds, and her fan interactions had become legendary for their warmth and genuine connection. But nobody expected that a routine fan greeting would become the catalyst for one of the most debated moments in recent tennis history. It was a crisp afternoon when the incident occurred. Eala had just finished a grueling practice session and was making her way to meet fans who had been waiting for hours to catch a glimpse of their hero. The crowd pressed forward with electric anticipation, cameras raised, phones recording, voices calling out her name. As she signed autographs and posed for photos, the atmosphere was charged with excitement. Then, in what seemed like the blink of an eye, the unexpected happened. Video footage, which would later circulate millions of times online, shows Eala interacting with a particularly enthusiastic fan. The encounter appeared to be going smoothly, until suddenly, the fan leaned in unexpectedly close. Eala's reaction, captured in stunning detail, showed a brief flash of surprise across her face. For just a moment, her composed demeanor seemed to waver before she quickly recovered with her signature smile. But it wasn't Eala's reaction that had fans talking. It was what happened next a split second that some have described as accidental and others as completely inappropriate. The fan appeared to make contact that left viewers questioning whether boundaries had been crossed. The footage was undeniably ambiguous, and that ambiguity became fuel for one of tennis's fastest-spreading controversies. Almost instantly, the clip began appearing across social media feeds. Tennis commentators scrambled to address it. Fans took to Twitter to share their interpretations. The hashtag #AlexEalaBirmingham began trending within hours, and with it came a flood of opinions that ranged from supportive to skeptical. "This is exactly why athletes need better security," one Twitter user posted. "The pressure these young players face is unimaginable, and incidents like this show how vulnerable they can be in public settings." Others rushed to defend the fan in question, arguing that the interaction was innocent and misinterpreted by those looking for controversy. "It's just a fan expressing excitement," another comment read. "This is being blown way out of proportion." But as the footage continued to gain traction, more details began to emerge. Witnesses who had been present during the interaction came forward with their own accounts of what they saw. Some backed the fans' version of events, describing the encounter as benign. Others, however, painted a different picture, one that hinted at something far more disturbing. The debate grew more heated as each hour passed. Sports analysts dissected the footage frame by frame. Body language experts were invited onto talk shows to offer their professional interpretations. And all the while, Alex Eala remained silent, choosing not to address the situation directly as the storm continued to brew around her. One thing was becoming increasingly clear: this was not just a fleeting internet moment. It was a turning point that would force both the Eala and the tennis world to confront questions about privacy, boundaries, and the dark side of sudden fame. By the time the sun set over Birmingham, the video had been viewed over 5 million times across various platforms. Social media algorithms, hungry for engagement, propelled the clip to trending status across multiple countries. Tennis fans who had never even heard of Alex Eala before were suddenly sharing the footage with their own followers, each adding their own perspective to the growing conversation. The reactions came in waves, each more intense than the last. On TikTok, creators began producing reaction videos and analysis pieces that broke down the footage second by second. Some added dramatic music to heighten the tension, while others used slow-motion effects to emphasize certain frames. These videos themselves generated millions of additional views, creating a feedback loop of viral content that seemed impossible to stop. Twitter became ground zero for the debate. Supporters of Eala formed a protective wall around her, using the platform to voice their concern and demand better security at tennis events. No athlete should ever feel uncomfortable during what's supposed to be a joyful fan interaction, one viral tweet declared, quickly accumulating thousands of retweets and likes. On the other side, a vocal minority argued that the fan was being unfairly targeted. "This is what happens when cameras capture everything," a user wrote. "People look for drama where none exists. Let's not ruin someone's reputation over a 2-second clip." The divide ran deeper than just surface-level opinions. It exposed a cultural rift between generations of fans, those who grew up in a pre-social media era versus those for whom documenting everything has become second nature. Older tennis enthusiasts argued that incidents like this were commonplace in the past, but were never blown up in the same way. Younger fans countered that the scrutiny comes with the territory of modern fame, and that athletes have every right to set boundaries. News outlets wasted no time picking up the story. Sports networks devoted segments to analyzing the footage, bringing in psychologists and former athletes to weigh in on what they called a complicated moment that raises important questions about fan-athlete relationships. "This is a teachable moment," one sports psychologist explained during a prime-time interview. Whether the interaction was inappropriate or completely innocent, it highlights the need for clearer guidelines when it comes to public interactions between athletes and fans. The line between admiration and invasion is becoming increasingly blurred. As the debate raged on, a new element entered the conversation: the racial and cultural dimensions of the story. Alex Eala, as a Filipino rising star in a sport often dominated by Western players, became a symbol for representation and pride in her home country. Her Filipino fans rallied around her with fierce loyalty, viewing any potential mistreatment through a lens of historical context and cultural sensitivity. "Alex is not just any tennis player to us," one Filipino fan commented. "She represents our hope, our dreams, and our ability to succeed on the global stage. When we see something that might have made her uncomfortable, we feel it personally." The international nature of the tennis fan base only added more layers to the discussion. Fans from different countries brought their own cultural expectations and interpretations to the table, further complicating any attempt at reaching a consensus about what had actually occurred. And through it all, Alex Eala's social media accounts remained conspicuously quiet, a silence that only served to amplify speculation. Her team released a brief statement acknowledging the situation without providing details, promising that more would be said at the appropriate time. The tennis world held its breath, waiting for the next development in a story that had already captured global attention. As the second day of the controversy dawned, journalists and investigators began digging deeper into the Birmingham incident. The footage had been examined from every possible angle, but key details remained frustratingly unclear. What had actually transpired in those crucial seconds before and after the moment captured on camera? Several eyewitnesses who had been standing near the barrier began sharing their accounts in greater detail. Many confirmed that the atmosphere had been unusually chaotic just before the interaction. A larger-than-expected crowd had shown up to see Eala, and security had been struggling to maintain order. "I've been to dozens of tennis events, and I've never seen that level of enthusiasm," one witness told a sports reporter. "The fans were really pushing forward, and the security team seemed overwhelmed." In that kind of environment, things can get misinterpreted really easily. This new information added important context to the viral footage. Perhaps what appeared to be a boundary violation was actually a simple case of accidental contact caused by the crush of the crowd. Or perhaps the fan had genuinely overstepped, taking advantage of the chaos to get closer to the athlete. A second eyewitness offered a different perspective, claiming that the fan in question had seemed overly aggressive in their approach. "I saw the whole thing from about 10 feet away," they explained. The fan was pushing past other people to get to Alex. When they reached her, there was an energy that felt different from the other interactions. It was intense. Attempts to identify the fan met with mixed results. Some social media users claimed to have recognized the person, while others insisted that blaming an individual based on grainy footage was irresponsible and potentially damaging to innocent people. Representatives from the Birmingham Open released a statement clarifying that they were reviewing their security protocols in light of the incident. "The safety and comfort of our players is our top priority," the statement read. "We are taking this situation very seriously and are committed to ensuring that all future events provide a safe environment for both athletes and fans." Meanwhile, other tennis players began weighing in on the conversation. Some, speaking anonymously, shared their own experiences with uncomfortable fan interactions during tournaments. Others, particularly those who had achieved global fame at a young age, expressed sympathy for what Eala was experiencing. "People don't understand what it's like to have that level of attention when you're still developing as a person," one seasoned pro told a podcast. "Alex is young. She's navigating fame while still figuring out who she is." Moments like this can be really jarring. Behind the scenes, Eala's team was working frantically to control the narrative. Discussions were held about whether to release a formal statement, go on the offensive against the fan in question, or simply wait for the news cycle to move on to the next story. Each option carried its own risks and benefits. The uncertainty created an atmosphere of heightened tension. Fans of all strikes were desperate for answers, but the facts remained elusive. The only certainty was that the incident had struck a nerve in the tennis community, touching on issues that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. As the investigation continued, one question dominated all others. Would this moment define Alex Eala's career, or would it become a footnote in an otherwise stellar rise to prominence? After days of speculation and increasingly heated debate, Alex Eala finally broke her silence. In an emotional video posted to her social media channels, the young tennis star addressed the Birmingham incident directly, offering her side of the story in a message that was both measured and deeply personal. "I want to thank everyone for their concern and support over the past few days," she began, her voice steady but clearly affected by the events. "What happened in Birmingham was a surprise to me, just as it was to everyone who saw the video. But I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I appreciate every single fan who comes out to support me." Eala went on to describe the moment from her perspective, offering details that had been missing from the viral footage. She explained that the fan interaction had initially seemed normal but had quickly escalated in a way that made her feel momentarily uncomfortable. "It was a crowded environment, and these things can happen," she said. Her response was praised for its grace and emotional honesty. Rather than playing the victim or blaming the fan outright, she acknowledged the complexity of the situation while maintaining her professional composure. "I know that everyone processes these situations differently," she stated. "For me, it was a learning experience about managing boundaries in public settings." The tennis community rallied around Eala in the wake of her statement. Fellow players sent messages of support, with some sharing their own stories of navigating tricky fan interactions. The solidarity demonstrated by her peers highlighted the unique challenges faced by professional athletes, particularly women in a traditionally male-dominated sport. However, not everyone was satisfied with Eala's response. Some fans felt that she had been too forgiving, arguing that the incident deserved a stronger condemnation. Others accused her of downplaying what had happened to protect her public image. Yet another group praised her approach, suggesting that her maturity in handling the situation would only enhance her reputation. The fan at the center of the controversy later issued their own statement through a social media post, expressing regret if their actions had caused any discomfort. "My intention was never to make Alex uncomfortable," they wrote. "I've been a fan of hers for years, and I got caught up in the excitement of the moment. I apologize if my enthusiasm was interpreted in a negative way." This apology, while seemingly genuine, only added more fuel to the ongoing debate. Some accepted it as a reasonable explanation for what had occurred. Others remained suspicious, viewing it as a calculated attempt to minimize a serious issue. Sports commentators who had been closely following the story began to weigh in with their final takes on the matter. The consensus was that the incident, while unfortunate, had ultimately been handled well by all parties involved. It had also sparked an important conversation about boundaries that the tennis world had been avoiding for too long. "I think this will be remembered as a watershed moment," one analyst concluded. "It forced everyone to think about what we expect from athletes and how we treat them as public figures. That's a conversation worth having, even if it started with an uncomfortable video clip." As the initial shock of the incident began to fade, The real question became what lasting impact it would have on Eala's career and on tennis culture more broadly. In the weeks following the Birmingham incident, Alex Eala demonstrated remarkable resilience. Rather than allowing the controversy to define her, she channeled the experience into a renewed commitment to her sport and her fans. Her performance on the court remained exceptional, with her powerful ground strokes and tactical intelligence serving as a reminder of why she was considered one of tennis's most promising young talents. The incident became a turning point in how tennis tournaments approached fan interactions. Several events announced enhanced security measures designed to protect athletes while maintaining the intimacy that made fan engagement special. Barriers were reinforced, staff training was updated, and new guidelines for safe interactions were introduced. Eala herself became a voice for athlete safety and mental health, using her platform to advocate for better protections. "We love our fans," she told an interviewer during a subsequent tournament, "but we're also humans who deserve to feel safe and respected. This isn't about creating distance. It's about creating boundaries that work for everyone." Her handling of the situation earned her respect far beyond the tennis community. International media outlets profiled her as an example of how to navigate public scrutiny with grace and dignity. Her social media following increased substantially, with new fans drawn to her poise and authenticity. The commercial aspect of Eala's career also benefited from the increased attention. Sponsorship deals that had been in negotiation were finalized, with brands recognizing her appeal as a role model who could handle adversity with class. Her marketability skyrocketed, positioning her as one of the most sought-after young athletes in the world. But the most significant impact was on Eala herself. Friends and family noted a new maturity in her approach to both tennis and life. She had faced a challenging situation and emerged stronger, more self-aware, and more determined to succeed. "I think Alex learned something important about herself during this whole ordeal," her coach commented. "She realized that she's not just a tennis player, she's someone who can inspire people by the way she handles challenges. That's a powerful realization for anyone, especially at her age." As the tennis season continued, Eala's results improved dramatically. She made deeper runs in tournaments, defeated higher-ranked opponents, and demonstrated a level of confidence that had been building beneath the surface. The Birmingham incident, far from derailing her career, seemed to have unlocked a new level of determination. The story of that unexpected moment in Birmingham had gone from viral sensation to a key chapter in Alex Eala's journey. It had tested her, challenged her, and ultimately strengthened her. It had also reminded everyone in tennis of the human element that lies at the heart of the sport, the connection between athletes and the fans who adore them. When asked whether she would change anything about how she handled the situation, Eala offered a thoughtful response that captured her evolution. "No, because everything happens for a reason. That moment taught me so much about who I am and what I stand for. And if it helps other athletes feel more confident setting boundaries, then it was worth it." The Birmingham incident would always be part of her story, but it would not define her. Alex Eala was still just beginning her journey, and the world was watching with anticipation to see what she would accomplish next. If you enjoyed this latest tennis update and want to stay ahead of the biggest stories in the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to World Zone right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. See you in the next video.